Alright, we're in pre-rolls, maybe? I think, yeah, we'll just go ahead and go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Zweihander RPG Twitch channel, where us three, your lovely hosts, will be demoing some starter kit content. So this is the Session 0 tool that is available for free on DriveThruRPG and will be included in the full starter kit product should you have kickstarted it, or it is also available on Backer Kit. Now that the Kickstarter has finished, you can go pick up the starter kit and this wonderful little tool for Zweihander RPG. Let me get our music started real quick. And this is a production of Fiends and Friends. I am Hunter, one of the wonderful co-founders of Fiends and Friends, who, in partnership with the Zweihander RPG team, Grim and Perilous Publishing, Andrews McMeal, and all of those people, put on Scarlet Sash Stories, usually right now. But we have decided to postpone our regularly scheduled programming and do a little bit of demo stuff for the starter kit. And so here we are today with myself, Chris above me on the stream, and Cody at the top on the stream. And
hey, what up, good boy?
What is that?
Take your moments.
What is that background you turned on?
Discord the movie.
So that is not your apartment that I remember.
What? You don't know. My apartment is fully animated.
That's pretty cool.
I hold really still. I could use my background that I made, Cody.
Yeah, your background's fun. You should use it, even if you don't hold really still.
You
Why-
should hold
I just-
really still.
I just need to get a green computer chair.
So why do you need to hold really still?
So I don't clip in and out.
Oh, does it not track very well?
Yeah.
All right, so what we're planning to do today on this little mini show demo featuring obviously the best of the Scarlet Sash Stories cast, we are going to we're going to look through this little document here, the Session 0 tool, and we're going to make some characters. We're going to demo how the system kind of works on a like character generation basis, on some of the basic mechanics and that sort of thing as we're going through, and basically show you what all is here for free and what all is on offer in the actual full product over on Backer Kit, the Zweihander starter kit. And so as far as we know, we being Fiends and Friends and myself and my friends here, this is kind of like Zweihander. It's not really a second edition, but it's definitely an updated edition from the one that we've been using for the last almost year now for Scarlet Sash Stories. There have been numerous small changes made to character generation and available options and that sort of thing. And so the three of us here, plus the other absent cast members, we actually just recently were kind of calculating our total Zweihander playtime just via like episode length. And I think we have breached 100 hours of just like straight up playing Zweihander RPG. And so we have at least a little bit of knowledge of how the system runs. And it'll be interesting for us to go through this new stuff and see what's different, see what changes have been made. We also have a nice new updated character sheet here to look at. And so this will be interesting. So let's just dive in.
Sploosh.
So this is all fairly familiar stuff. I'm just starting on literally from the beginning of the document. Talking about Zweihander, what a role-playing game is, how Zweihander is different from other games. Morally gray world, predominantly human, low fantasy, talking about like, I don't want to say the default setting for Zweihander, because obviously like even in our show we've changed a little bit about the canon, but this is giving you an idea of what your stories will feature when you're playing Zweihander. So you've got superstition, magic is verboten, talking about how death is around every corner. Oh, here's a good a village of peasants can readily drag a knight off their horse and beat them to a bloody pulp. So, as opposed to something like the largest role-playing game in the world, you are not an invincible demigod of a hero. You're simply a person who was, I guess depending on your perspective, in the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the wrong time.
Or consistently
I
in the
would-
wrong.
Just like to remind you that Hart died and came back, and you're trying to tell me that we're not like superhero demigod type heroics.
So yeah, we will get into
Yeah.
the fate point system.
We are statistically anomalies, I'll say
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You guys also, I do want to say, make an effort to plan very well.
Yeah, I mean, between me and Nate, you know, we bring so much of our Shadowrun play style into where we're like, all right, we're going to plot and think through the strategy of this maneuver here.
Yeah. Yeah, and so they actually talk about here, I don't remember where it was, but they talk about how because you are fragile, because characters can be injured or killed so easily, it encourages you to be creative and to be thoughtful about what you do, even like before swords are drawn or things like that, where you're like, oh, well, maybe we should talk it out instead of shooting everybody, or maybe, you know, as opposed to, again, the thing we're going to compare to the most probably is going to be, you know, the big one, where you kick
That shall not be named.
you kick down the door of a dungeon, kill everything inside.
Munchkin.
Yeah, Munchkin. Kill everything inside, take everything valuable, and move
It's
on.
worth XP.
It's in the name.
Guys.
Yeah, and so Zweihander attempts to not be like that. You are asked to consider the humanity of those that you are coming up against in conflict and that sort of thing. And also, you know, they could kill you just as easily as you could kill them in many situations. And so that's something to think about.
That.
Well, yeah, and so then that...
Remember that time that you blew your own hand off and then got
I sure
smacked?
do. I remember that real good.
Sure, in one hit. I remember. But if you look at the
least
note,
I had the balls to try.
if
That's
you look
true.
at the note right here on Chris's camera,
What does that say?
It says Chris will not remember that.
Chris will not remember that. I like that. So here's the first like mechanical thing that they're describing in the idea of corruption, which is in the same vein as something like Warhammer Fantasy or Warhammer 40K, this like chaos corruptive force that influences all living things to do bad things.
Yeah,
So,
it's the dark side.
yeah, like the
It's
dark
me.
side.
Hit me.
Corruption's greatest pleasure, however, is when it can steer an adventurer towards their most ignoble, vile self.
See,
Hell
I
yeah.
told you it's me.
Yeah, and so that in the game is tracked numerically, and there are plenty of things that happen that cause you to gain corruption, as well as lose corruption. And so, as you're playing through, you will face horrible things and do terrible things, and you will gain corruption, and it manifests as chaos ranks and order ranks and that sort of thing, which I don't believe are super described, at least not yet.
Dude, that art on that page though,
Oh, you like this?
that's hot.
Yeah, that's
Oh
some
my
like
These-
Hieronymus Bosch
Yeah, look at this. This bird with
little
tentacles. and
bird boy.
This like, I don't know, mollusk pauldrons.
Yep. He looks so happy
dig it.
too. Look at
Yeah,
just
both
how
of them.
yeah, they just
They're
look
like,
so
"Hello,
pleased.
come with us to our nest, please.
Mr.
We
Beard
promise
Man.
not to eat you.
Yeah. So this
we won't
is
eat you."
this beard man is how your characters will usually end up by the end of a good
Yeah.
game of Zweihander. Glassy-eyed,
Brain on drugs.
yeah, horrified. They mention here the safety tool that Grim and Perilous uses. They've actually published their own. It's called Entreat the Darkness. It's a really great tool for checking in with players and DMs about content, especially since Zweihander is intended to be darker in tone. It's important to basically set healthy boundaries, right? In a grim and perilous dark fantasy adventure, there are plenty of things that can happen that people may feel uncomfortable with. And so Entreat the Darkness gives you the ability to basically set those boundaries explicitly about what you want to feature in your games, what you want to include but hide in your games, and what is completely forbidden. And we've had excellent luck using Entreat the Darkness. We've established a good baseline for our content, and we check in basically every session.
Yeah, we tried to.
Yeah, to see, as people's real lives change, their interests in what they want to do in roleplay can also change. And then there's, of course, this wonderful little blurb here where Zweihander RPG does not endorse discrimination of any kind. Zweihander will sometimes pit your adventurer against enemies who use heinous, prejudiced acts to justify their ends. Adventurers should fight against these institutions with everything they've got, just as we must confront prejudice in real life. So it's a reaffirmation that this is a game about, while the content can be horrible, it is in no way endorsing or encouraging actual prejudice or racism or anything like that. So then a little bit about this document. Gives you some helpful formatting things. And then final considerations. Zweihander is easy to learn but hard to master. I feel like the three of us can relate to that a little bit.
Oh yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
half the rules for this game.
Yeah.
True.
And so I think this is a really something that I think we can all relate to. It uses an intuitive roll under D100 system with rich complexity. However, combat is deadlier, and so be sure to lean into creative problem solving before swords and pistols are drawn. That's what I
Yeah.
saw earlier.
Yeah. And that's
yeah.
honestly one of my favorite things about this game, is that it does encourage you to kind of think outside the box and not just be a murder hobo.
Exactly, yep.
Yeah,
If I
and
want to be a
avoid
murder
fire.
hobo, I'll go play video games.
Avoid fire at all costs.
Always avoid fire.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fire is never your friend. Man should have stayed in the dark.
But I mean, if you think about like a late medieval setting,
You don't have to convince me.
yeah, fire
Still
is
avoid fire.
like a very real problem.
If I encounter an exposed flame larger than this, I'm concerned.
Yeah,
In
for
real
sure.
life. I don't even like fireplace.
Oh, here's a point that's relevant to us. It says veteran players may already be familiar with some of the content of the starter kit. However, the rules are presented more concisely with newly improved mechanics and supplemental options. That means these books are 100% compatible with the current game line. So yeah, I think we'll be seeing a little bit of that as we go through like character generation and that sort of thing. Things that are new or streamlined will be interesting to see. Unlike board games, the only win condition in Zweihander is to have a good time. That we're very well aware of. And here we go. Oh, here's join the Zweihander Discord. Super great people, and can help with all of your interests or needs in the game. So this begins to detail how the game works. Let's see. Talking about player characters, examples of gameplay. This is all fairly...
Yo, that GM illustration is dope as hell.
Where was that?
It was on page 6. Sorry, I'm scrolling along.
Oh, yeah.
So.
The, like, cultist in the hood kind of thing. I do like that.
He's got the little teethy bits.
Yeah. It's the best part.
Let's see. Here's an interesting addition. I don't remember this being in the base game, but it may have been. This little bit where it says players can set scenes. With GM approval, players can set their own scenes to flesh out their PC's backgrounds or side stories. Gives an example of her character having a flashback before an attack. Very good to include because there are some people when they run games that are very explicit in what they allow being in the book or not. And so I can see this where someone being like, yeah, it does actually say that I can take control just very briefly and describe something.
Yeah, and I don't know, unless it becomes problematic, I think most good DMs encourage their players to do things like that.
You would think, but I feel like having
Well, I
it
think good is the operative
yeah
word.
the good is definitely the
I mean,
important word.
don't want to disparage all DMs out there. It's a hard job to do as someone who's done it a lot.
Yeah.
There are a lot of bad DMs out there, and there's a lot of room for improvement, even for myself.
Yeah, and so I feel like this particular edition is for those that may be initially resistant to the idea of like, oh, the rules don't support that. Like, here it is. Like, it says.
And it encourages players, especially new players, not just new to Zweihander, but new to RP in general. Like, it's going to encourage them, like, oh, I can approach it. It's not,
Yeah, only reactive. You can be creative as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's important.
Hell yeah. So then we get into the dice mechanics. As stated earlier, it is a roll under D100 system, which will be clearer once we start the character building process. But basically, your character has a bunch of percentage statistics based on their attributes and skills. And so when they try to do something, you roll a D100, and if your number falls beneath your total value, you succeed. And so the higher your numbers go, the more skilled you are. Oh, here's a big list of skills. Can I get all of this on screen at once? I cannot.
Just zoom out.
Yeah, but then it's gonna... It's fine. Okay. So, big list of skills. Alchemy, athletics, awareness. Let's see. Actually, I believe it was Nate who has refused to join us tonight, which that's not fair, but has chosen to do something else tonight besides be part of this demo. He pointed out that they did clarify for scrutinize. That it says notice, find details, remember things, sense other motive.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
a much better description.
Yeah, because originally it was fairly broad and fairly unclear as to when you would use scrutinize for certain tasks.
Is counterfeit a new skill?
Counterfeit. It is not. It is not a new skill.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh, that one's much more clarified too. Clip coins, falsify documents, make replicas. In the first interlude story, Nacho's character counterfeited some documents with the counterfeit skill. Disguise. Oh, disguise says hide emotions. That's an interesting
That's cool.
Like
use.
lying and stuff.
Yeah.
I guess it's not lying, but
Yeah, it's more like remain
Don't show that you're feared.
stoic. Yeah.
Wow, scared. That's words.
Ooh, bargain. Bargain includes compromise, which is almost like an overlap with like a diplomacy kind of thing.
yeah, because I mean, I could certainly see it being one of those things where you could do like a.
Like if I do this for you, you can do this for me,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Because it doesn't have like a persuasion.
Yeah.
It does have charm, but that's
Yeah.
sort of not exactly the same. They actually, it looks like they've put charm into maybe a more defined box as well as something that is sort of in that romantic-y kind of.
Yeah. As opposed to like winning favor, which might almost be bargain.
Yeah.
Eavesdrop. Read lips. Education. Folklore is pretty much the same. Guile.
There's your lie.
Yeah. Handle animal. Heal. I do like that heal says heal others from damage, disease, and injury as a like mechanical thing.
Mm-hmm.
Interrogation, use your wits to elicit useful information. I feel like there are other things that could apply to that as well.
Corkscrews.
Yeah.
Oh, and look, there's the best stat in the game.
Leadership, yep.
If you ever roll a priest, put a lot of points in that. It's very fun.
Very strong. You've got your two martial attack skills, martial melee, martial ranged. Pilots for boats and sail ships. Resolve, again, includes the mechanical ideas of peril, stress, fear, terror. Ride includes fly atop creatures, which is an interesting addition. Very cool.
I want to ride a Pegasus.
Yeah. Rumor for gather information, gossip, and party, which is amazing.
Dude, from now on when we throw parties, we should always roll rumor
Just roll
tests
rumor,
to see
yeah.
what happens to us at the end of the night.
Ooh, yeah.
Yes, I like that.
I did that in a game that I ran one time, and it ended up with one person drunkenly in the basement locking himself in a cell, someone else taking a bunch of treasure and then losing it in the town.
Ooh, nice.
And I ran a scene where one person confessed his love to another PC in a drunken stupor, and they were like, that's nice.
Oh, no.
So very good time. I want to use the rumor skill more.
I do love that rumor now is for partying.
Yeah.
Scrutinize, we talked about the simple attack skills, simple melee, simple ranged. Skullduggery and stealth. I do like the like delineation. Because stealth is very much like ambush, hide, sneak, and spy. Skullduggery is like the illegal activities that you probably are going to do while hiding or sneaking. But separating those is good. Survival, toughness, tradecraft.
And note here that tradecraft is like the actual crafting of things or running a business, as opposed to bargain, which is like the individual interaction.
The interpersonal, yeah. Yeah. So tradecraft is like being a skilled blacksmith, and bargain is like being able to actually sell things. And then warfare for war machines, strategy, such and such. So yeah, I like that a lot. Much clearer and delineated.
Yeah, good improvements.
Here's more mechanic stuff about rolling skill tests. We kind of talked about that. Again, it'll be clearer once we start building characters. Talking about crits.
Crits. This game does crits better than any other game.
It does.
Ever.
Yeah. And so I wanted to talk about this a little bit. Criticals are when the digits on your D100 dice match. And the context for which a crit is a critical success or a critical failure is if the skill test would have succeeded anyway. So say you need to roll under a 50 and you roll a 22, that is a critical success. The interesting implication for this system, unlike pretty much any other game that I've played before, is that the more skilled you get at doing something, the more likely you are to critically succeed. So instead of being a flat, say, 5% chance, like in the world's largest role-playing game, when you roll a natural 20, in Zweihander, if you are really good at swinging a sword, and say you have an 80 total cumulative skill, then you have 11, 22, 33, 44, 55, 66, 77 are your crit numbers. And so you have a much higher chance the more skilled you are, which is very cool and feels really good when it happens. And then, of course, the opposite is if you get double digits on the other side of if you roll too high, then it's a critical failure. Talking about difficulty rating, so there's no DC or like check threshold besides what is intrinsically part of your character. But there are situational modifiers listed here where your skill is either penalized or increased based on what the situation is. So minus 30 means it's much harder.
Yeah.
Plus 30.
So trying to pick a lock while under gunfire could be challenging or hard as opposed to standard.
Yeah. And so standard is going to be in basically normal conditions. You're going to be rolling against yourself, trying to roll under your skill. Assisted tests. Oh, where's the flip? Here we go. This flip idea is very neat too. This is sort of the Zweihander advantage system, where if you have something that calls for you to flip to succeed, you take the 2 digits you rolled on your D100 and you can switch them if it would be better. So in this instance, 91, if you're flipping to succeed, it's actually 19, which almost for sure is going to be a success. And then the opposite is true for using things that you're not trained in or whatever. You will flip to fail, which is like disadvantage. Let's see. Assist dice. You roll an extra one.
Fail forward is a good rule set. I don't know if that was in the original book,
It
but
was,
something that every DM should be familiar with. The fail forward model. It makes storytelling much better, helps prevent dead ends, and keeps the action going.
I feel like in the full rules, they explicitly talked about how critical failures should always push the narrative forward. I would need to find it in the main book, but I almost for sure remember reading a full like paragraph about how like when your players critically fail, it should be interesting, narratively like give narrative momentum, but also have consequences. It shouldn't be like, oh, you can't do that. It should be like, oh, well, you're doing it, but then XYZ circumstance happens, and now the situation has changed. Which I really, really like that idea, because I feel like there are times in games that I've played previously where it's like, oh, I failed my test, so what do we do now?
You're still stuck outside of the door.
It's like, so I guess we're sitting here. I'm stuck.
Can I try again?
Yeah, like, do I just roll again until I get it? Like, what is happening narratively? So again, much like that like players can set the scene, having this fail forward, like, encouraging that is very good. And then we have the fortune pool, which is another very interesting Zweihander, not unique, but big feature of the system. Basically, players get... Actually, I should read this, because they might have changed it. At the beginning of every new session, pull out the chipboard tokens from the starter kit, or coins, equal to the number of the players, plus the GM in the middle of the table. For example, if there's 1 GM and 3 players, there would be 4 coins. Okay, that is how it has worked. This is different. For example, then put a bowl in front. The GM immediately takes one of the coins and adds it to the misfortune pool. Each player then rolls a 1d6 chaos dice. For every face 1 to 5, take a coin from the stack and put it in the shared fortune pool. For every result of a 6, the GM gets one.
You can literally start a session out with
full
bad luck.
misfortune.
It's like, ooh, we're really today, boys.
Yeah.
Actually, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I think that, especially for groups like us, where until recently we were really bad about never using our fortune points because we just never wanted to give them to Hunter. But if Hunter started with them, then that would force us to need to use them to compensate when we got them back.
Yeah, and they actually... So I just looked further down on the page. So the way that it was initially written for the rule is that when a fortune point is spent, it flips to a misfortune, which the GM gets. The original ruling is that when the GM spent the misfortune, it was gone. They have changed that here officially to say
How
that...
we did it?
Yeah, to flip them back to the player.
Yeah, that's way more interesting.
Yeah, so whenever a player uses a fortune point, immediately converts to misfortune for the GM. The GM may use the misfortune to take advantage of the same benefits for the players or use monster abilities. Once the GM spins the point, it transfers back into the fortune pool for the players. And then when the next session begins, determine the initial size, roll for them, etc., etc. So yeah, so basic idea behind these misfortune and fortune points is that you can spend them for a variety of effects, which are listed.
The best one being
here.
the last one, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely the best one is the last one. Why use anything else?
So there are 3 strictly mechanical ones. spend a fortune to re-roll, or I guess I should just say a coin, because the GM can do this too. You can spend a coin to re-roll any test. Even if you succeed or fail, you can re-roll it, but you have to accept the new outcome. Except for when it's a crit fail. If you critically fail, you cannot spend fortune to re-roll it. You can also spend a coin to do extra damage, basically set the damage dice to a 6, causes it to explode, you can roll it for more damage. Or you can spend a coin to gain 1 additional action point in combat. This 4th one is very cool, because I don't know if this was explicitly...
It wasn't explicit for the players.
Yeah.
It was explicit for the GM. That's like, you can do these to achieve specific GM decided things.
Yeah.
If I recall. Now this I love.
Yeah.
That was great, but I love this.
Yeah. So you guys probably wouldn't have seen on the GM side of things, but there are a lot of monsters and creatures and stuff that say, spend a misfortune point to do XYZ thing, like recover health or some kind of special attack or whatever. This 4th use is kind of like the player's version of that. Of like, here are, you have the option to suggest something. They call it an edit to a situation, which I also really dig.
Yeah, so it's like, there is a horde of monsters coming for you, but you're not able to pull down the drawbridge fast enough. I spend a fortune point and find an axe so I can cut the rope. Like,
yeah,
that would be pretty rad.
Yeah.
Edits do not allow you to avoid being slain or avoid suffering injury. That is the function of a fate point. Yeah, I do really like this. I like this being explicitly included here. Yeah, here we go. Highlight that. Final considerations. Zweihander is a cooperative role-playing game. Everyone's supposed to have fun. Zweihander is a game of exceptions. And effects don't stack. I'm trying to think of when that would be. As an action in combat, quality spell, talent trait. Oh, okay. Zweihander can be customized for your table using house rules. Zweihander empowers the GM as the referee of the game's rules. Sweet. All right. Character creation. Here we go. Let's look at this. I love this little box here. Before moving forward, the group needs to pick one person to be the GM. This is typically a person with lots of enthusiasm and strong organizational skills. I love that. That's such a nice...
Yeah, Hunter has one of those things.
I have like 1.5 of those things.
You have one of those things at any given time.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And you just
I
bank
just
on
like
the fact
switch.
that you will have and the other at some point in the past.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair.
At some point this week, I will have been
Organized or enthusiastic.
Right now I'm enthusiastic.
Hey, that's fair. It works. Okay, getting into character. Retribution and violence are the hallmark of your unfortunate birthright.
What?
Chosen undead.
Chosen undead.
People are bound to strict social strata and rarely break free from the yoke of servitude.
Just like real life.
Yeah.
Medieval humoralisms, the balance of black bile, blood, phlegm, and yellow bile, is the foundation of medicine.
So just like real life, depending on which communities you
Yeah, what state you're from or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Religious ceremonies dominate every facet of society. Man, are we sure this is like...
This is just
This is just America. Superstition is the foundation
Shout out to
of
talking shit on Kansas.
Yeah, shout out to Kansas. You suck.
Shout out to Kansas. I was born there and I hate it. Let's go.
Superstition is the foundation of everyday life and all faiths. We're still
Yeah.
we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for 5 right now. Magic is reviled by most, and those who would call themselves wizards are sought out for heresy.
Well,
Maybe not
I don't know,
as not as
sought out
Kansan.
for heresy, but
Yeah.
certainly called cringe lords.
Yeah.
Then again, I mean, there were people that weren't allowed to read Harry Potter growing
I
up.
was just
Yeah.
gonna say, come
Yeah.
on now.
It definitely was a little heretical.
There was the whole people stealing Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic cards, parents getting pissed.
Yeah. Hungry beasts of all kinds threaten travelers, while monsters have recently awoken from their ancient slumber.
That's what I call white-tailed deer.
Yeah. Not all creatures are truly monstrous, and not all civilized folk are truly civilized. I like that one a lot.
That one's really
This
good,
is just
yeah.
the Midwest, though.
Yeah.
It's still.
Yeah,
like,
very.
Yeah, it's still very dark.
It's just
ages.
making me
Yeah.
homesick.
Yeah.
like,
It's like, Detroit.
yeah.
Hey, it's not actually that bad. They got some cool murals.
I
was
know.
there. I was there
I
recently.
lived there.
Yeah.
Not recently.
Behind the curtain of the ethereal veil, capricious and sinister forces vie for agency over everyone.
Is that what they call the Electoral College?
I'm pretty sure that's yeah. Tell me why again my vote is worth less. Oh, it's the ethereal
It's
veil.
the Oh, it's sorry, it's capricious
Whoa.
and sinister.
Thanks for coming to
Okay.
civics class with fiends and friends.
That's so funny.
Vote your local election.
So for those of you who are not familiar with the Zweihander system, creating your PC, and it says so right here, is heavily encouraged to be as random as possible, which some people may initially balk at. Random.
Bluster.
But I can attest, and these two wonderful people who are here with me as well, to the idea that randomly generated characters 90% of the time come out being really cool.
Yeah.
And very interesting.
Yeah, I was definitely 100% hating everything when I initially rolled Nab up, and now she's like one of my favorite characters I've ever played. So.
Yeah. And
It makes you be creative in how you connect the dots, and because you are connecting the dots, you have a better understanding of who your character is.
Yeah.
it instead of being like, I am Ruthor the elf paladin, you
It's
are
not even an elven name.
yeah,
What's
so
wrong with you?
you are at the end of character generation, which we will, we'll talk about when we get there. You are presented with this individual who has like a dozen interesting things about them that you then put together versus being like, okay, elf, paladin, and I guess they have like the background system now in 5th edition and whatever. But this idea of random generation is super rad. So we should just get started.
All sorts. I don't know if they exist for this version yet, but there are all sorts of online tools that can auto-generate this stuff for you.
Yes.
So if you do want to just go full random, you can just have 80% of the work rolled and done for you, and you just throw it in a character sheet.
Yeah, almost for sure. I can say with certainty that those have not yet been updated for the new starter set stuff. But
they will be.
Yeah, they will be for sure. As this comes out and people put work into it and everything.
There's a really motivated fan base for Zweihander.
Absolutely.
As we are a part of it.
Yeah. So yeah, you roll basically everything about your character. And so let's scroll down. Let's get started. You'll need a pencil. Use the profession folios, D100 and 2D10. Strive for every PC to be unique, determining different results if you end up with the same option as another player. Step 1, your profession. Every PC's journey begins somewhere, and that starts with their profession. So this is like your first class. And I say first because Zweihander works in a system of tiers. And so you, at the...
Constantly crying.
Well, there's that, yeah. At the end of an adventurer's career, they will have advanced to tier 3, or died, and at that point will have their first profession, an intermediate profession, and an advanced profession. Those last two, the intermediate and the advanced, you pick those based on your adventures, what's happened to your character, what you're interested in, strengths and weaknesses. But this first one is randomly generated. So we have here our wonderful dice, and it looks like Chris has just rolled her first dice.
Cody went first.
Oh, I missed Cody's. So Cody got a 57,
I'm an investigator.
and Chris got 14.
I'm a barber surgeon.
Nice.
My working name will be Crocodile Dundee.
I will come up with a name when I am done.
I got 71. That makes me
You
a
are
pugilist.
Mrs. Nesgrin.
Mrs. Nesgrin.
Nesgrin.
So in our long-running campaign, Scarlet Sash Stories, which runs every Friday on this channel at 9 or 8 Central, we have a character played by the lovely Ignacio, who is a pugilist and has now advanced, or no, started as a pugilist and is now some other punchy thing that I can't remember. I'd have to look back.
Yeah.
But the character's name is Nesgrin, and so we joke about that a lot. Okay, so I'm going to tab over to my character sheet. My name is undetermined right now. I have made my life as a pugilist.
Do we jump to the profession page right now?
Let's see. I'm gonna do mine as book order as possible. You guys may feel free to not do that.
It does tell you in the
to
step
read
1,
aloud.
roll and then read the description loud to the game table.
Oh, okay. Do you guys want to do that?
Sure. Might as well if we're gonna follow the rules.
No,
Yeah.
that's a whole
This
page.
this is a whole other thing. This is a whole other world for me, guys. I can't remember the last time that I properly went through a character creation in the way I was supposed to.
Yeah.
Because my overwhelming desire to not read manuals is
It's just hard to defeat.
Yeah.
all right.
What is that? Wait,
Where
doctor
are
looking
these?
dude. Holy, that's amazing.
Did I miss it? Oh no, they're all the way at the bottom.
Yeah, they're down below.
Okay.
Yeah, Control F does work.
Yeah,
Weren't
you're
you
right.
just telling me that the
I
other
thought
day?
it would be here. I thought it would be further up, is all. Investigator. The gift of memory and the histories were seen as a great blessing, but no longer. Today folk put their faith in the editor of the weekly broadsheets and penny dreadfuls to entertain. The gift is not lost, though, as you are in the investigator. You are a master of details, making your livelihood through analyzing criminal and infernal activity. Though the devil is in the details, yours is a science based on speculation rather than fact. You are almost impossibly preternaturally keen, able to link together wildly unrelated clues to create a consistent narrative. Your investigations sometimes lead you afar, tracking quarries over land and sea. By imbibing poisons and diving into visions, little truths reveal themselves. In these hazes, you willingly take on a curse of hyper-reality to plot out and obstruct details both gruesome and seemingly mundane. This bizarre, obsessive piecing together of information means that you often recreate the horrors of a scene within your mind's eye, giving you a front seat to the attendant's pain. And as some of that description says,
Yeah.
the professional trait which you gain, every profession has one trait that you just get for having that job. Mine is true detective, When intoxicated or underneath the effects of any poison, make a scrutinize test. If successful, you can ask the GM to give you an important clue from your investigations you may not have already thought of or overlooked. This
very
benefit
cool.
cannot be gained more than once per session. So once per session, you can just get hammered and get clues.
Yeah. It's also like very much a like cultural reference to like the old Sherlock Holmes and especially literally the show True Detective, if you have seen that show. There's that idea of getting intoxicated and having the sudden realization or whatever. Because Sherlock Holmes used to just like do coke all the time, right? Like that was
Yeah.
Well, to be
He's
fair,
like-
Coke is really good for helping you think things
yeah,
through.
yeah. And I think in True Detective,
We are not
it's-
pro Coke, but
I think it's meth in that show. I'd have to go back and watch.
well, in
but-
House it's Vicodin, so
yeah. So I mean, there's all these different intoxicants, and so it also very helpfully lists the talents and what they do
yeah.
on the
Oh, that's
profession.
That's
Yeah,
so
I love
nice.
that.
Huge
And-
improvement, Grim and Perilous.
And
huge.
this profession's like chart here, very well organized as opposed to previously. And it has the trappings. Oh
well,
my
it also one
gosh.
thing that I think is also different, unless I read it wrong. I think you get all of these skill ranks at level 1.
I think that's wrong, but I would have to go back and look.
I think it's right in. We'll look at it when it get to the next section.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that it says when it's talking about your attribute bone or your oh, where is it? Shoot, I'm dumb. Skill ranks. It just tells you on skill ranks on the front of your profession folio. You'll see a grid, etc. We'll talk about it when we get there. So I'm gonna
Okay.
skip ahead. I don't want to cut off Chris.
It's all good.
And so, Chris, you were a barber surgeon, correct?
I am a barber surgeon, and everyone knows that no one is more important to the health of a small town or a soldier's camp than a solid, experienced barber surgeon. Trained in the razor, both to groom the flea-ridden heads of travelers and to perform base acts of healing, you're the medical care that the poor and burgeoning middle classes can hope for. You groom and shave folks during the best of times, while you sew and stitch the wounded in the worst. Treatment of bunions, toothaches, and the like fills the times in between. Bleeding, leechcraft, and expression of the humors are intrinsic to my trade. My surgeries tend to be a messy act, as mine is a rough trade. Thus, I'm frequently... I can read. I'm good at this, guys. Thus, I am frequently to my patients as a butcher. Butcher is to the side of beef, imperfect, sanguine, and sometimes willing to sell body parts and organs to nefarious practitioners of magic. Anyone unfortunate enough to rely on your handiwork during times of duress will likely become a field of scars. As they say, a barber surgeon for a toothache, a plague doctor for a rotted, mutated head. Wow, that was difficult for me to read through. Thanks for hanging
Mine
in
was
there,
too for
guys.
some reason.
Like every speech impediment that it took me years to get over was just like, I'm gonna be back now. Hi, how are you?
I like this the trait. I don't remember if it was called that.
What's
Last
your
time.
trait do?
Whenever I successfully bind wounds to heal damage, my patient moves one additional step up the damage condition track positively. In addition, I always succeed at heal tests to prep bandages.
Cool.
Pliers, scalpel, bone saw.
That knife work talent at the bottom there is very cool too.
It is cool. I like it.
Causing bleed. All right, so I'll go down to the pugilist, and we can read that one real quick. Pugilists win fights with their bare fists by the strength of will and atrophy of nerve. Maybe you make your living as a prize fighter, living off hefty purses as prizes. Or you may be a washed-up has-been, fighting in back alleys for a handful of pennies. Regardless, pugilism is a sport where sacrifice is vital. Regulated matches leave fighters looking slightly better than pounded beef, while amateur bouts can end with one or both participants dead. And you have had your fair share of lingering pains, blackouts, and confusion. Pugilism is a sport of sacrifice. Aggression being your forte and livelihood, you find it very challenging, nigh unto impossible, to improve your station to more genteel callings. You can no more change your nature than a bowl in a ceramic shop. Many friends or business associates have fallen bloody prey to some pugilist attempts to disprove this. Indeed, a grim end for even the mightiest. All that's left is the fight, and you are willing to bring it on until your bitter end comes. Professional trait: Mortal Kombat! You can inflict moderate, serious, and grievous injuries with brawling-type weapons. Which is important, because normally you can't. Reference either brawn bonus or combat bonus for damage with these weapons. Beatdown, clinch fighter, ground and pound. Those are all staple talents used by our friend Nacho during Scarlet Sash stories. Allowing for free trip attempts and free dirty tricks and chokeholds and that sort of thing. Very, very cool. Nice. Okay, so back up to the top. Character creation. So we rolled for our professions. None of us got magic professions, unfortunately.
Yep. And no deities here either.
Yeah, so we'll still look at those, but we won't dive into it too much. But basically, the Etherealist, which I believe is an entirely new profession that we should look at before the end of this. The Etherealist is basically the magic user class present in this Session 0 tool. And should you roll an Etherealist, you would then roll 3 spells. And these are the lowest tier generalist magic spells. Aegis, we have seen before, provides protection from ranged weapons. Dispel, Gust of Wind, Haste. Sanctuary is a very good one for protection.
Mm-hmm.
Vow of Fealty, that's one that Cody's character has used before. Witch Sight, which is basically sea magic. All of these are very interesting. I wonder if we'll have to look. But I love how each spell has fail and crit fail conditions.
Oh yeah, dude, the crit fails are terrifying.
Yeah, so
Magic, the crit fails in Magic are the reason very clearly why people don't like it, because it'll be stuff like, you want to use a firebolt. Uh-oh, you crit failed. You've lit yourself and everyone within 10 yards on fire.
Yeah. So the idea that magic is very dangerous and uncontrollable and like poorly understood is very evident mechanically, because these spells have like failure and crit failure conditions that, should you roll poorly or get unlucky, very bad things can happen.
If you crit fail haste, which is a generalist spell, I'm pretty sure you lose like a D10 of years off your life.
Yeah, it's
because you age.
Yep, it's very fun. It's fine.
Magic is very cool and absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, so it's very much that like double-edged sword of you are extremely potent on the battlefield, but should things go bad, they go really bad.
Remember how Celine like has to use her little book to do her little magic stuff, and then that one time she did a spell and crit failed, and her book flew off into the distance.
was that? I think it was actually.
That was a chaos manifestation.
Yeah, I think.
Was it?
Yeah, I think Nate he channeled power, which is
You're
basically
you're right.
which is like pulling more energy from the aether, which gives you a higher chance for bad things to happen, even if you don't crit fail. And so
even
he,
if you succeed, bad things can still happen.
yeah, so
But
he,
that alone, again,
yeah,
magic
yeah.
is terrifying.
It's very, and so he
Well,
lost
and-
his spell book, and it was so funny.
For the people who may be new to Zweihander, it's very interesting because magic for mages versus priests, functionally they work the same, and they
Yep.
get a lot of the same resources and spells and details, especially at low level. The difference is that when you get a chaos manifestation, that's like a mage, and if you're like a priest, you get a punishment based on your god.
Yeah.
So your god has different rules and punishments because of their faith and
Yeah.
your devotion and everything.
It's very
Which one of the ones on mine, like in our Scarlet Sash stories, is if I get a chaos manifestation and divine punishment, every fire within like 5 yards of me just immediately snuffs out until I fix my relationship with God.
fun. Yeah. Which can be very bad because your god is the god of winter. So should you should you be dousing all the fires uncontrollably?
Yeah, get kicked out of town.
So let's see. Actually, yeah, here we go. So, should you have rolled the chosen profession? That's the priest one in this quick start rules.
Sort of, yeah, just sort of the. This is like, I think I could be wrong on this, so feel free to correct me if you know better. This is sort of an abbreviated list of
Yes.
professions.
Oh yeah.
Normally, there's like, what, 40 starting professions you can roll?
400,000. There
Yeah.
are so many.
So
There are like a billion different professions, but there is a subset that you can only roll at the beginning.
yeah. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. In the full Zweihander book, I want to say there are like 40 starting professions.
I
I think
Right.
so.
And then of course there's Main Gouch,
Main
which
Gouch.
has like another 20 more that you can roll to start as. So yeah, so obviously Lillian was a priest as a starting
Yeah.
profession. Nabeen was, I keep wanting to say Corsair. Dragoon. Yeah, Dragoon is like a mounted pistolier.
The gun version of
Yep.
a Corsair.
Celine was a Hedgewise, which is a magic user. Hart was a sellsword, so a mercenary. I believe Ignacio's character Nesgrin was a pugilist to start with. Jordan's character, may he rest in peace. He was.
You
Was he a
need at the
spy?
very, very end, regardless of how everything turns out for our characters, you need to either have Trish just pop out of the barrel and just be like, "Where'd everyone go?" Or like, one of us goes like we're celebrating. We open what we think is a wine barrel, and it's like fermented
Yeah,
Trish.
Trish's rotted corpse. Trish was a courtier.
Courtier.
Yeah, which is like a
Higher society.
yeah, like a high
Also known
society
as a
noble.
Courtier.
I always thought it was courtier as well.
I thought it was courtier.
I think it's both.
Yeah, French. In the interlude, we had a pamphleteer, which is like a newsboy kind of thing.
Extra.
Yeah, we had a watchman, which is like just a guard. A smuggler, alleged smuggler, I should say. What else did we have? Oh, a
Import-export specialist.
beggar, a literal like homeless bum as a profession.
Whoa,
which-
bum's a harsh word, man.
I
Chill.
mean, it literally says like you are a beggar. So that there are so many different things. that you can roll to start as, and all of them have very, very cool and thematic, like profession bonuses or profession powers. So here's a brief list of the sort of established deities. You've got the Custodian, the Demiurge, the Crouching One, the God Emperor, the Learner, the Leviathan, the Martyr, the Night Father, the Steward, and the Winter King. And so should you roll a Chosen, here are brief descriptions. Custodian pays homage to the rites of death. Demiurge respects the cycle of predator and prey. The Crouching One treats death as sacred. Violence has strict rules about it. The God Emperor promotes the greater good over individual freedoms, and this is like the primary deity of the human population.
Yeah, Demiurge is the elven one.
Yeah. The Learner is kind of like the magic, safeguarding knowledge. Leviathan is the ocean god. Martyr is for the sick and injured. The Night Father is sort of the opposite of the God Emperor, espousing freedom and liberty above all. The Steward is like the warriors, like strength, honor, knightliness. And the Winter King is all about oaths and
Loyalty
and that sort of thing.
Also, really quick, because you had mentioned, so I went and looked. The Etherealist is a pretty sort of standard sort of neophyte in its description, that you're like a student of the secrets of the higher mysteries and that sort of thing. Their default a professional trait is really strong. You just flip to succeed on magic checks.
Dang.
On incantation, you just flip to succeed.
That's super good.
That's super.
Yeah, that is extremely strong. So I'm seeing here, Cody, where you said skill ranks. For this session 0, you do just get all of them. So let's.
Yeah, I think that I don't know if this is supposed to be like consistent for other types of things, but I think the idea is that rather than spending points on like bonuses, they want you to get some more skills.
Yeah.
Because I think that theoretically, with the old version, you could basically do the same thing and get all of your skills instead of abilities and talents.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay, so let me look at Pugilist, and I'll bubble my skills real quick. Pugilist, I start with Athletics, Coordination, Folklore. So... Oh, and they are in alphabetical order, as opposed to
by stat.
By stat,
I like
yeah.
That makes life so much easier.
Athletics.
Because even after a year, I can never remember where anything is on the normal character
I
sheet.
forget where about half of them are.
Athletics.
Especially because they're like we tend to use the same ones our characters do.
Yeah, our characters do focus in a lot. This game really incentivizes you to do what you're good at.
Yeah.
Because if you're not good at something, your chances of succeeding are usually close to or less than half.
Yeah. Resolve, Rumor, Simple Melee. So yeah, I would say immediate impression, this new character sheet, better than the old one. The
organization on it is really nice.
The only thing that I'm not digging, and it's very minor, is just where the primary attributes are. I wish those were still on the left.
Yeah, here.
But other than that, it's rad.
Column.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you toss this, which I imagine you guys will eventually, roll 20 roll 20 people, Zweihander people. When you guys put this in roll 20, you should absolutely make the description section its own tab, because it is very big.
Where is this?
Right at the top.
Oh, the
I am age,
Yeah, okay.
age, gender, ancestry, upbringing.
yeah.
Like, it's very good and important when you're building your character, but
Yeah.
certainly something that
During gameplay is
during
Yeah.
gameplay is quite it's like a fourth of the first page, or maybe even a
Yeah.
third. Very good on paper, though, if you were printing this out.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so back up to character creation.
Thanks, Zweihander RPG.
What was that?
They said thanks for the feedback.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Okay.
We use Roll20 a lot, so
Oh yeah, we automate everything for sure.
this system is really good on Roll20 as well. One of a few systems. This system, I think you could play just fine without Roll20.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Like we played the Witcher RPG.
Oh my-
Impossible to play with real dice. I swear, you have to play it on Roll20.
It was certainly interesting that every attack had like 6 nested dice rolls of like like okay, did I hit? Okay, where did I hit? Okay, did I do body crit to that specific part? Okay, how much damage did I do? But yeah, really enjoy Zweihander on Roll20. Super nice. All right, so primary attributes. Between 37 and 65. Agility is speed, dexterity, physical readiness. Brawn is power, muscle, combat. And this is an interesting difference between Zweihander and other RPGs, mostly 5th edition. The idea that combat as an intrinsic attribute being separate from, say, strength or dexterity or something like that, I personally think is more realistic. The idea,
It's very interesting.
yeah, the idea that you can be potentially less physically strong than somebody, but better at using ranged and melee weapons because of your, background or whatever, is, I think, very, very cool.
Yeah, and I think it applies so much more in this context because, especially like in this era and this time period sort of situation, things like swords, knowing how to use a sword is a very specific skill and ability. Like, there are things like that go off of your brawn, like your boxing stuff. Like, if you're just a big burly guy, you're swinging the meat at the end of your arm. You don't need to be terribly like talented to do that.
Combat
Using a sword
effective
or a spear effectively is a totally different trait. But they do let you have that sort of niche. I want to use a dagger because I'm really lithe, so I'm gonna be effective with that, even if I'm not trained, in a castle or something.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting.
So agility, brawn, combat, fellowship is charisma, likability, intelligence, learn and remember. Perception is the sort of wisdom, and then willpower is like mental fortitude. And so you roll these as well. Generate your primary attributes by rolling 2d10. Add the two values together, and then add 35 to determine the final sum. So let's not all do this at the same time, just for the sake of not being extremely confusing. But
sounds like fun though.
So let's have Cody go first. So do your 2d10s.
So that's a 4. And do these you just do them in order? Is that normally how you do it?
Actually, let me look. That's a
it
wonderful
is.
question. Almost for sure.
I just read it and it said record them in order. So agility, then brawn. Combat.
Man, my character is just not a whole lot of diversity here.
You're just like middle of the road for pretty much everything.
Cody is everyman Jack.
God dang it.
Look at that. You are just jack of all trades here.
But if you guys were wondering why I said that you you have like a low chance to succeed on things, these are my base stats, which means if I'm rolling something that I'm not trained in, I'm going to have on every single one of these less than a 50% chance to succeed. This is the only
Except for
one where
that
I would
one.
have
Yeah.
more than a 50% chance to succeed.
And that's
on
your
any.
willpower, right? That's the last one?
And that's my willpower.
Yeah. Yeah, so in order, 43, 46, 42, 44, 46, 42, and then the high 53. Like Cody said, without modification for skill ranks, those numbers are his roll under targets. So if he's trying to do something with his combat of 42 and he doesn't have a relevant skill, he's going to roll and try to roll beneath a 42, which is intuitively a 42% chance to succeed, right? Like, that's how it works.
Yeah, with a 6% crit failure chance.
Yeah, so a 4%, or no, not even 4, a 3% crit
So
success, 7% crit failure chance. Yeah. And so,
And I do get to modify this
Yeah.
based on my profession.
yeah.
So my profession is a investigator, so I had a plus 5% to my perception stat.
And this what Cody's doing right now, this adjustment by profession, is, as far as I know, entirely new.
They used to have something like this based on race. I don't know if that still exists. It looks like they may have just migrated that to your profession instead of your race here.
My understanding, and we're not quite there yet, but I think this adjustment by profession is whole cloth new. There was nothing like this per profession before.
Yeah.
I think you are thinking of the upbringing, which is on the next page, where the upbringing, industrious culture, militant, used to confer a reduction in the cost of buying skill focuses. It gave you like a primary attribute. Like if you were industrious, it was brawn. So if you wanted to buy brawn skill focuses with your XP, it was cheaper. It is now, again, a flat primary attribute adjustment for upbringing as well. And this is one of the things that Nate, when we were first looking at this like 2 weeks ago, he's like, oh, that's so cool. I love this change where you receive attribute bonuses for your profession. Chris, do you want to roll or would you like me to roll?
Can roll.
Okay.
Aha.
54. Ooh. Dang.
Where were these rolls when we were actually playing
Yeah, right.
games? How many am I rolling? I forgot.
So what I was thinking of was the ancestral modifiers. They didn't affect your percentiles.
Oh,
they
it was the
affected your
bonus. Yeah.
bonuses.
And we'll get to the bonuses. Is that all of them?
I believe so. I'm old and actually write things down, so bear
that's
with
fine.
me one moment.
Bear with you.
Yeah.
Get the mace.
Hear that, Ed? Bears. Now you're putting the whole station in jeopardy.
54, 53, 45, 51, 48, 44, 43. Those are some good stats. Do you care?
Yeah.
Do you care if I do mine real quick?
No, go for it. I'm good.
All right, and it's 7, right?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep.
Just copy
1.
paste it already.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh, that's a bad one.
You got
7. Ooh, so what is that
what's that in?
third from the bottom? Intelligence.
You're an
Yeah,
idiot.
I'm big dumb. All right, here
You're
we
an
go.
idiot pugilist.
Yeah, got
You
TBI.
got concussed a few many times.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about, though, when it comes to like making your character. How we go, okay, your intelligence is really low. What does that mean for your profession? Like, imagine if he had been an investigator
Yeah.
and he had our intelligence of 37. We'd have to really figure out what led an idiot to become an investigator. Like maybe he's just really lucky. You know, that would be very interesting as like a
Or
character
Just
concept.
a
Could-
charlatan of some sort.
You
Or
could.
an alcoholic. with
Yeah, I was gonna
future
say like
sight.
lean into this idea of like chemical fueled, like prescient, like just sort of
Yeah.
getting there.
I like
But
it.
like
I
when
will-
they're not under the influence, just like a total dullard.
I would love to point out, this is just a fun little touch. In the text description of tobacco in my like equipment, it says tobacco in parentheses poison.
That's
Which
fair.
is like, yeah, technically, I mean, like even in real life, tobacco like kills insects and shit.
There is a thing in the sorry, I just noticed this, but the adjustment by profession,
Yeah.
one of the professions is listed as a parenthetical unavailable.
Yeah, we'll be
I
seeing
don't-
more of that as we go
Okay.
down.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a ton of that in the race section.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And actually, if we did some mental math here, we could probably figure out which one that is.
I think it would be one that we wouldn't have access to.
I guess that's true.
That would be, yeah.
So yeah, again, for those of you wondering why that might be part of this session 0 tool set is available for free on DriveThruRPG. And so it includes a subset of the content for the starter kit. And so there are going to be things as we go through this that where it'll say like unavailable. That is just simply encouraging you to purchase the full product so that you can see all of the cool options available to you in the starter set. So as a pugilist, I get +5 to my brawn. So I will tab back over here, come to my brawn stat, puts me at a nice 55.
I would love to point out the comment that one of the Zweihander RPG folks made, which is that character would be a Disco Elysium investigator.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's so
Oh,
perfect.
Which it honestly, that really makes me want to DM a version of this game that's just
Yes.
aesthetically styled after Disco Elysium.
It would be
This just,
so
like,
good.
Bizarro world where like people are like talking to you and you're like, is my tie communicating to me right now?
Yeah,
Like,
is this sentient?
ooh, I would love that. That sounds fun as heck.
That would be super good.
And I'm not gonna stop thinking about this. I'm gonna have to write
Hey,
this
man.
idea down.
Like I said, we've been talking about our post Scarlet Sash story plans, and we haven't landed on anything yet.
I would love to do a Bizarro world, just like a world where alternate reality of Scarlet Sash story where the star just totally ripped through the veil and just
Chaos spills
is,
in.
is the normal
Yeah.
right now. I would
And then
love
it's like that like semi-modern setting where it's just like, oh yeah, like, you know, cryptids, they're real. It's
Yeah, I'm looking for the Mothman. You seen the Mothman around here? He stole my wallet.
yeah. I just got pickpocketed by Mothman. All right, so determining upbringing. Roll D100. So we'll do that real quick. D100. I got 92, which puts me at.
I freaking
Okay,
I love
so
the Zweihander Rocky mode. I wish we could do something that cool.
with my 92 upbringing, that makes me a scholastic pugilist, which will bump my terrible intelligence up to, let's see.
I love the Zweihander rock with glasses on it. Is so fun.
Oh yeah, isn't it supposed to be like the rock that killed the corn berserker?
Yeah.
Yep.
Just like exploding D6.
Yeah, the exploding
Oh, right.
fury dice.
I need to roll my D100.
So I'm no longer at 37 intelligence. That brought me all the way up to 42 because I apparently had
I got an 89. That makes me also scholastic. That means I should re-roll, right?
Not particularly for this one. I don't think you would need to.
It's
because,
mostly the profession
like
thing.
the traits, like the ancestral traits and that sort of thing. You don't want to double up on. And make
I'll
sure
be
you.
scholastic.
Oh, we lost Chris.
Where's Chris?
Yep.
That dang internet provider.
Mediacom. Let me pop.
Everyone, call your local ISP and tell them that you want to see
they
changes.
suck.
Tell them they suck and we hate them.
We'll just.
So my
okay.
intelligence actually goes up to 51, which is really good as an investigator.
Yep.
I have a lot of perception and investigation.
And make sure you record that up at the top. There's an upbringing.
Thank
upbringing
you.
box.
Upbringing scholastic.
You were raised to be an avid reader, taught that knowledge is the ultimate weapon. Whether taught by school marms or by nascent anarchists. Oh, no, sorry, arcanists. I read that wrong. I thought I got really excited for a second. Arcanists. You were taught to stay curious and to understand the world around you through books.
Is anarchist an option? It feels
Anarchist
like it should be.
is a base profession.
It is a base profession.
in the full rule set.
I love that. The ability to make mollies.
Yeah. So how do we square a scholastic pugilist? Is this like started out in like university or something?
This is like that game Bully. Do you
Yeah,
remember that
like
game
Bully, yeah, by Rockstar.
You went to a private school and
just like beat people up.
Beat people up.
I love that. Never did super well academically, but certainly exercised my ability to hit things. Okay, so upbringing's done.
Did you get your upbringing, Chris?
I'm waiting for it to roll. It says rolling dice.
Oh, there it goes.
95.
Hey,
Is
you're
that
scholastic
another
too.
Do we
Okay.
together?
This is perfect. We could be
Now the bizarre world.
Yeah, we could be
Oh,
schoolyard
yeah.
friends.
Actually,
I do
we're
like
gonna.
playing in school games with you guys.
Is this another high school,
school-
fantasy
Yeah,
game?
it's Pine Haven,
Dude,
but
that would be dark as fuck, and I love it.
That would be
You could
so
just turn
dark.
that into a straight up like horror movie.
that'd be so good.
No, I'm all about it.
So I want to point out we have rolled like 15% of our total character stuff and are already very excited about just the random things that have occurred, which is the beauty of this random generation character creation.
Yes.
Okay. So primary attribute bonuses. This is sort of like in 5th edition, you will have a conversion of the larger number into a more usable and mechanically relevant smaller number. In the case of Zweihander, it is simply the tens digit of whatever the percentage of your attribute is. So here it says if you have 57 combat, you've got a 5 combat bonus. So if we tab back over to our character sheet, we can see here where it wants us to list our bonuses. And it very helpfully gives you the in-text abbreviation. So AB is always agility bonus, BB is brawn, sort of going down like that. So my agility bonus is 4, brawn is 5, combat's 4, fellowship 5, 4,
And these
4, 4.
most generally, like especially for agility, brawn, and combat, these affect how much damage you can do.
Yeah.
But willpower bonus will affect things like your peril threshold, so how well you resist fear, and like your brawn bonus will affect how sturdy you are when it comes to taking damage. How much of a beating can you take before it starts to actually hurt you?
Fellowship bonus determines the number of people you can influence, sort of as a
Yeah.
baseline. So like if you're
And I
trying
guess,
to
like tripled if you're a
yeah,
priest,
so
which
like
is great.
Cody's character Lillian as a priest, the priestly profession trait says that you can influence your fellowship bonus times 3 of individuals. And so yeah, these bonuses are relevant for things like movement speed and other like derived statistics for your character.
But not luckily, they're all really nice small numbers.
Yeah, so it's very
Yeah.
simple addition for that sort of thing. So record them in the circle. You'll unlock more from your profession folio as you adventure. Secondary attributes. These are what the derived things we were just talking about. So Apparel Threshold. Okay, so it's talking about Peril. Yeah, so we'll let's dive into that real quick. Peril.
I guess nothing will change it, right?
What?
I'm trying to make sure that nothing's going to change these numbers.
Shouldn't.
Shouldn't.
Unless you roll a trait for your
Yeah,
ancestry.
Trait that might affect it.
That might be like.
I think most of the traits were converted into things more like talents, though. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So for the Zweihander RPG system, Peril functions as a combination of morale and sanity and like non-lethal damage and that sort of thing. It's essentially things that are not direct bodily harm, but still hinder you in your ability to do things. So like being very afraid or being tired or even like embarrassed or that sort of thing can inflict
Repulsed.
peril. Yeah. And so your peril threshold is basically the number of damage, peril damage that you can take before you move down on the track. So it lists the steps here: unhindered, you're fine. This is the default okay peril stance. Imperiled is one step lower. Something's wrong. You're tired, you're scared, you're uncertain, but it's not affecting you yet. And then you get down to these 3 that talk about ignoring skill ranks. And this is where, as pressure increases, as you become more and more terrified or more hungry or more exhausted, you begin
Compounds of all of those.
Yeah, you begin to basically forget the training that you have. So like in the skills that you have taken, you lose the benefit of those skill ranks as you become more imperiled. So like you might be a decent swordsman until you're facing down a demon and you forget like, oh, wait, how do I do this again? Because you were so terrified. And so determining your peril threshold is by 3 plus, and remember this WB in brackets means our willpower bonus. So if we tab back over to our character sheet, over on the left here, we see very helpfully it says 3 plus willpower bonus. So if I look at my willpower bonus, it's 4, making my default peril threshold 7. And then
Weak.
yeah, I'm a scaredy little
Yeah, mine's one better.
And then they also include the additional thresholds, which are this base threshold plus 6, plus 12, and plus 18 to determine if there is something like titanically imperiling, you can be reduced more than 1 step if it exceeds those those additional thresholds. So 7 plus 6 is 13, and then
Yes, the ground splits
19.
apart. The devil himself walks out. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
gonna take
those
some
sorts
peril
of
damage.
things. And then 25.
Like how that's like 1,000,000 times higher than the numbers in our actual game.
Yeah.
Poor little Nab.
Yep. So then initiative and movement. Your initiative is determined by 3 plus your perception bonus, and your movement is determined by 3 plus your agility bonus. And so if we tab back over to our sheet, I actually need to find these on here. Initiative is down in the middle below like weapons and stuff. So 3 plus perception bonus. So mine's 4.
What is this overage?
Overage,
If you're encumbered, maybe?
I believe it has to do with encumbrance. So if you are carrying too much extra stuff, your initiative and movement are lowered by, at least in the base rules, how it worked was you had like a certain number of large items that you could carry. A large item being like a sword and a shield and armor. And the number of large items that you are carrying that exceeds, I believe, your brawn bonus is overage. And so you would be slowed by that.
I like that abstraction of resources too, like within reason.
Yeah. Instead of tracking like literal pounds or whatever.
Because it's like makes a system that no one uses.
Yeah, because people are like, okay, well, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, I don't want to track how much rope weighs, how much this pot I'm carrying weighs.
Okay, so literally the next thing is Encumbrance Limit. It's 3 plus your brawn bonus. So that would
Where
be...
does that go?
I believe...
there it is. It's at the very bottom.
Very bottom? Oh, I see it. Encumbrance. My brawn is 5, so my encumbrance is 8. Current, probably 0. Overage, probably 0 right now. Damage threshold. So this is in the flip side of Peril. So if Peril is everything that is non-lethal or emotional or that sort of thing, damage is very much the visceral, meat and bone, bodily, physical harm that you can take. And it again functions in the same way as a track that is gated by thresholds. And so you determine your base damage threshold by brawn bonus. And so if we tab back over, I believe that was down here next to movement. Brawn bonus plus damage threshold modifier. And so the damage threshold modifier would come from something like armor. So if you're wearing armor, you would then include that in your damage threshold.
Did either of you guys start with armor?
I don't believe so.
I did not.
I would need to go back to my pugilist page. I didn't actually record the trappings.
I'll take a look for you.
I'm a bad noodle.
It's true.
You do not get any armor either.
Excellent. I don't want any armor. So to briefly talk about the steps on the damage track, unharmed, old wounds, stitches, sutures, you've been bandaged, that sort of thing. Lightly wounded, cuts, bruising, etc. Moderately wounded, lesions, deeper cuts. Seriously wounded. I can't actually read all of this. My son is sitting next to me, but your clothing is soiled in blood, excrement, and sweat. Grievously wounded, contusions, deep lacerations, that sort of thing. And then slain is the bottom, where you die. Unless you sacrifice a fate point, which we will get to.
Just kidding. Unless.
Fate points is the next thing. Fate points are your ticket to mitigate disaster. So should you sustain damage that puts you into the slain bubble on the damage track, your character is supposed to be dead. Slain with an exclamation point. But you get 2 to start with.
Get 2.
You
can also use them to do other stuff like slay a foe.
Does it say that?
Yeah. If your GM allows it, you can use it to save someone else or slay a foe.
That's very cool. That is.
So I could have used it one to save Jolie.
I'm pretty sure that is new, as far as I know.
Yeah. Well, there's also, for anyone, once again, who's new to this, there's all sorts of weirdo, crazy stuff that you can do once you start to get to end game advanced classes.
Yeah.
One of the classes that I'm looking at is basically the Pope, and every time that I get rid of a fate point, I get like a 7 or 8% to one of my core attributes.
Yeah.
But I can never have more than one at a time.
Yeah. So it's like slowly ascending, but you can't bank them, so you're vulnerable to actual death.
To assassination attempts.
Yeah, and so the reason we were surprised about starting with 2 is that the base starting fate points used to be 1, and then you were awarded a second one if you choose to take a drawback. And we'll have to see when we get there if that system has changed at all. Don't close anything. So at the top, where is fate points?
It's right next
On the right.
to next
By
to
order
drawback.
alignment.
Oh, I see. It's a big box. I was looking for.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's a big box and a tiny little number.
I've got 2 fate points. Sweet. All right. Background. And this is where we're getting into things that are not as mechanically relevant, but are very much story relevant. So you roll D100 to determine your age group. And this may throw a wrench into
We
our...
did not go to school together.
Yeah, this may
You
throw a
were
wrench
probably
into...
one of my instructors or
teacher,
something.
yeah.
I'm right in the middle.
Yeah, you're the janitor.
So I'm an adult. Wait,
Well,
are we all adults?
no,
I
she's
am
a child.
young.
Oh, you're young. So Cody and I are adults, and you are.
We're your dads.
We're your dads.
Yes,
I love that.
that.
All right, and so this goes up here. I am an adult.
Oh, I can't roll my gender? That's fair.
Yeah. So gender you pick. I'll just say male for now if we're gonna be her dads.
I'll be fluid.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm one of those people that you look at them and you're like, I have no idea what's in your pants, but you're gorgeous.
Well, speaking of that, I believe this artwork right below gender is depicting like chest binding as for like a trans character, which is very cool. Which I really dig.
Also, weird shout out because it's not super relevant, but Dragon Age Inquisition has an amazing trans character that I really, really love. So check that out.
Isn't not to derail too much, but I thought transgenderism was like core to the Canary like culture.
It is not core to their culture, but it is a thing that is known about and enough in their culture that there's like a word for it, which is like living in the body of another person or something like that. But yeah, basically they're like, yeah, if you're a woman, we're gonna make you do woman's work. But if you're just a man that was born in a woman's body, yeah, you can do men's work.
Yeah. Shout out to the Canary for being like
To the
accepting.
Canary for being the
Good
most
job.
forward-thinking, like
in
communist
Thetis.
dictatorship.
Yeah. Yeah, some other problematic things, but they do okay there.
Yeah, so I just super love that. It's one of my favorite trans characters in all of literature. I love them a lot.
All right, so this is where we get to Ancestry, and this is where we're gonna roll for human, dwarf, halfling, that sort of thing.
Quickly, before we roll for that, Cody, can you pick high or low for me?
Hi, I'm always
Okay.
wait.
I am gonna be a boy this time around.
Okay.
I rolled for it while my internet was fucking up, so.
All right. Let's roll Ancestry. Let's see what
Let's
we
do
get.
it.
Hit that D100. 62.
62.
Okay.
I'm a halfling.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're a halfling.
I don't want to be
6.
small.
I think I'm unavailable. Yep,
You're
as a
unavailable.
6, I am
Emotionally
unavailable.
Unavailable.
My roll 20 is trying real hard to roll. There you go.
Is,
I'm a gnome.
is human not this first 1 to 10? I feel like it is.
Oh yeah, human is on there. It's included. It must be, right?
Or does it actually? I think it says. Let's read this real quick, because I could be an idiot. Zweihander assumes a humanocentric world. Humans are the default ancestry, and everyone speaks their shared language.
Oh, everyone's a human unless.
Yeah, so you either choose human or at your option roll D100 to determine. So you can never roll human.
Okay.
Wow.
And
Given
so
that, can I opt to stay human? I didn't realize that was the rule.
yeah, you can be human if you would like.
Okay, I don't want to be a halfling. I'd rather be a human.
Excuse you, sir.
I don't like you short people.
Oh, fuck you.
Halflings are basically Irish. How could you say that?
What? The Irish aren't short.
That is, like, empirically untrue.
Don't be racist. This man is racist against Irish people.
So I'll roll again because I did get a secret hidden race.
The average Irish person is 5 foot 10 inches.
That's short. 87. What does 87 put me at?
The average height of a human is 5'6".
I got a Ciabra.
A human woman, sure.
No, that's
Oh, you
just
lucky
human.
son of a bitch.
Yeah.
You gotta remember that half of the world is in, or more than half of the world is in Asia, which are much more petite frames.
Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, I want to point out that in the base rules, there are not this cool lizard folk Atzlan. There's not the Grendel, and there's not the Ciabra, and these new races, freaking sweet.
So which one did you get?
I got the Ciabra, the mask people. But so here's the Atzlan. They're lizard folk. They have an interesting sort of base culture that is like about sort of vanity and costume and tradition. Highly structured, very fun. And then these are all of the, or I should say some of the ancestral traits you can get for being a lizard folk, like breathe underwater, or drop your tail if you die to avoid death, like a gecko would do.
These are friggin' awesome, guys.
Yeah, like these are so cool. And then you have dwarves. Dwarves are, they're dwarves. They're fine. They've got a bunch of very cool. Oh, Oh yeah, this trait right here, Dwarven Warfare, is one of the reasons that Heart has so far failed to die in our game. When you're wielding a two-handed melee weapon using both hands, any attempt to parry automatically succeeds. Just like always parry. And so that is a very strong ancestral talent that Heart rolled. Elves. I believe, Lillian, you said you got Immortal Blessing, right?
I think it's different.
It must be different.
I think it's different. I think it's like timeless or something. And, like I'm in here, so I can look at my character sheet.
Yeah.
It is Enduring Mortality.
Okay. And that one's not
which I
listed
don't think
here.
is in here. I just rolled my trait for my human.
What'd you get?
Which was Mountain Among Men.
Ooh.
You can wield any two-handed melee weapon with one hand.
What?
This also means you may freely take advantage of the adaptable quality for weapons using only one hand.
That's insane. That is very cool.
I'm gonna one-hand a fucking long sword and just full damage.
That's awesome.
I should get like an S-stock and a shield.
Ooh, that's a good idea. Now you're Dark Souls in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mountain Among Men.
They call me the Mountain.
Yeah, these ancestral traits are so incredibly cool for both like mechanically in like combat or roleplay skill checks or whatever, but also like, you know, Mountain Among Men. Yeah, like he's a big friggin' guy. Like
bitch.
Yeah, like that's something that you incorporate into your character. Gnomes are as devious and wild as you can expect.
Yeah, crag fighting.
Let's see. Oh yeah, Denizen of Stone is fun. We had this in our interlude story. Your skin is turned entirely to stone when you're helpless, and you cannot be hurt in this state. So when you fall asleep, you literally turn to stone. And
I love that.
Our beggar,
Crazy.
the beggar character that we had this trait in the interlude, which is probably like, if you think about someone living on the streets.
Yeah.
Falling asleep and turning to stone,
safe.
super useful, right? Like,
Yeah.
very cool.
I rolled Goldbergian for this.
Skill ranks in alchemy, skullduggery, and tradecraft add plus 15% base instead of 10.
Wait,
That's
we're doing which things?
alchemy, skullduggery, and
skullduggery.
tradecraft.
And it's a plus 15 for every
For
point?
every skill rank. So it's 15,
Whoa!
30, 45.
A 45% boost? That's crazy.
insane.
See, this is why Zweihander is awesome, is because every like level up or ability you get is so friggin' nuts. Like most of them are just hugely game changing.
Yeah, so here's a Grendel. These are the beast folk ancestry. One of their ancestral traits is called Lamb to the Slaughter. When you inflict injuries with a melee weapon, you inflict 2 injuries instead of 1, which is just like nuts. It's just ridiculous.
Half beast, an additional 3 movement on top of standard.
Yep.
You automatically succeed at all skill tests to interact with animals and beasts.
That is very cool.
That's so strong. Can you imagine being a Grendel
Winter
wolf?
King, yeah.
Winter King, like
You just like have all the wolves at your disposal.
Yeah, you just talk to them, you're like, hey, come here, and they're like, yeah, sure, boss.
Sure. You smell good.
Well, I love that there are all these different versions of them too. Like you've got like the classic satyr, but then you've got like these like Greek satyrs as well.
Yep. Halflings. Let's see if there's any really cool. Chaos is a ladder is a halfling trait. Whenever combat begins, you always gain the benefit of a surprise round. When parrying melee weapons, flip to succeed. Let's see. Fleet-footed, whenever you charge or run, add +6 yards to your movement. Like, some of these
Ignore the weak quality of all ranged weapons.
Oh, for like slings and stuff?
Yeah, you could like do grievous injuries with a sling.
That's awesome. Ogres are the larger
Big boys.
humanoids, big boys. And
The
let's
rock
see.
gut spray.
Oh yeah,
and the
rock
fire
gut
breath.
spray when you can breathe fire from rock gut.
What? Did you see Big and Scary?
Foes will never use actions in combat against you on their first turn of combat. I love that.
I like it.
It's like an anti-surprise round.
Yeah.
All right, so here's what I rolled. Ciabra. This is new, and I am actually entirely unfamiliar with its ancestry. Fickle and coldly neutral, the Ciabra are wanderers, never staying in one place for too long. Your cultures are centered around the worship of a revered ancestor, carefully preserved and kept safe by sacred warriors of your caravan. Your people communicate using still sign, a series of gestures using hands and facial expressions. The Ciabra rarely use words, reserving them for moments of intense emotion. And like your kindred, you are a force of nature, with a tendency towards stormy moods and intense actions. Like all Ciabra, you have a headdress or mask that embodies a single expression important to your kindred. The mask is meant to be worn among outsiders, as it's considered shameful to reveal your face or true name to them.
Oh.
To that
You're a
end,
Mandalorian.
you've adopted a new name, such as Dustman, Revenant, or Stormwalker. As a masked Ciabra, you now wander the world as an adventurer to make your own fate. However, all roads inevitably lead back to the will of your ancestor. How will you deal with this fact is up to you. That's very cool. And these guys are clearly not human. Like, they've got three primary fingers, and like some of them, you know, like maybe scaled or furry. But yeah, very cool, very mysterious. Let's see what I get as my trait. $66.
Mask of Revulsion.
5967. Don a Ciabran mask when a foe uses a movement action. They immediately move back to the position they started in without spending AP, but may trigger an opportunity attack. A foe can be made subject to this trait once every 24 hours. So you could just repel every enemy once per combat with your mask.
Well, you even worse than that, if they run past trying to charge you, take a bunch of attacks of opportunity, and then get sent back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That is super cool. So we're gonna
It's very
record that.
specific.
Mask of Revulsion. Oh, that's not drawbacks. Let's see. So I'm a Ciabra. Have we done social class yet?
We have not.
Okay. Haven't done stature, build. Where did you guys record your trait?
Balance
balance
and
trait.
trait.
Mask of Revulsion. And I'll just copy and paste that.
The copy and paste does some wild stuff with your formatting.
Oh, yeah?
At least it did for me. I had like all sorts of
Yeah.
weird capitalizations and stuff.
Well, weird. It didn't for me.
Mine's not terrible.
It could be my format. It could be the program I'm using for sure.
Mine came out okay.
I'm also on the same browser. Unless you switch to something else, Gary.
Okay.
Mine's in Brave right now.
Yes.
Are you guys all ready for social class?
Let's
Yeah.
do it.
All right. So we have lowborn, burgher, and aristocrat, and these will these have mechanical benefits and relevance in a lot of social interactions. So things will say when interacting with a social class different than yours, such and such happens. So if you're a burgher and you're interacting with lowborns or aristocrats, and then there will be other things that say if you're interacting with someone of the same social class, you have, these benefits or hindrances. So let's roll social class. 24. Almost for sure that puts me
That's a lowborn.
solidly
Lowborn.
lowborn.
I got burger.
Can I be married to someone who has 3 fingers and wears a mask all the time?
Absolutely.
How many fingers does our child have?
I guess it depends on like how exactly the genetics work.
I think the human genetics sort of takes superiority just because of the fact that there's the human trait where they have other
Oh
ancestries.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I think they're sort of the mixing pot of genetics.
So as a lowborn, from morning to night, your family labored. You likely work 6 days a week, special holy days. Lowborn live in constant deference. So it's like peasant, feudal class. Burgher, family broke free from the feudal order. Commercial families, that kind of thing. Freedom to forge your own life without the protection of the aristocracy. And then aristocrat, you're born into a family with a noble name. You have means, patronage, etc. All right, physical appearance. This again is rolled, which is very fun. So let's roll for stature. $53. That's going to put me probably solidly in the average. Yep, so I'm average stature. Record that on the sheet.
I am a short mountain of a man.
So almost for sure I remember in like the larger descriptions of those traits in the core book, it did detail that you have to take a certain stature. There was a lot of those, like what Nab has in where it's like
where
she has to take frail.
and-
yeah, like you're little, and so you have to be the lowest stature. So for yours, Cody, I would say just record it as the largest stature. And then build. So average. Let's roll for build.
Slender. I am Slender Man.
59.
Oh boy.
Almost for sure that's gonna be like average again. Yep. I'm an average stature, an average build.
I'm a chonker.
I'm a chonker.
A chonker.
All right.
Oh, did they change the word corpulent?
Oh, did they?
Yeah, it's heavy set now.
Okay, yeah. Yep. I remember I think
Probably
it was
fair. We had one person.
I
who
think
had
it
a
was
very
Jordan.
negative-
Yeah, Jordan.
Was it Jordan or Matt?
I think it was both of them.
Maybe I think both of them.
I think they literally were like, I refuse to play a character who is described as corpulent. And we're like, it doesn't necessarily mean like vastly overweight or anything
you're not
like that.
Jabba the Hutt.
You're
Dude,
not like
if you're not playing the Duke from Resident Evil
Yeah.
8, when you get a name like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
like you're doing it wrong, and why you wouldn't want to play the Duke is
That's
beyond me.
the Duke
like,
is very cool.
Hunger
it's fucking
is to
great.
be alive.
All right, complexion. What is my Siabran complexion?
Whoa, albino is on this list.
I got a
Oh, you're
9.
albino!
I am an albino Ciabra. You summoned that.
I am light tan. Oh,
I am
vitiligo is on
ebony.
the list too. That's very interesting. I know some folks with vitiligo. That's very interesting.
Me too.
That's
I also
that's
know
definitely
people with
new.
albinism.
I don't remember that
Yeah.
being in the
I don't think
base
albinism
rules.
was
I don't think
either.
albinism was either. Roll D100 3 times to determine your hair, combining length, style, and color. Oh, this is cool. Okay. This is new too. I don't remember there being hair.
Oh yeah.
One, 2, 3, 8, 61, 56. 8 puts me at cropped. 61 puts me at straight. 56 puts me at gray.
Wait,
Cropped.
you're both straight and gray?
Yeah, cropped, straight, gray hair.
I think that's just called bisexual. What did I rolled a 28? Curly. That's actually cute as hell.
Ooh, the eyes. Eyes are different now. It's not color anymore. It's description.
Dude, my guy sounds hot.
Let's hear it.
I'm tall, slender, with light tan complexion, and I have near shaved curly black hair.
Oh, you're a Greek god. You're
I'm
like
hot as hell.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
an
just like
investigator. I'm like actually Benedict Cumberbatch. Like
Yep. That's very good. All right. Let's see what kind of Oh, that's the wrong dice. Let's see what kind of eyes I got. 32. This better be like dumb. Icy. Ooh, I like that.
I got a 100. I have stormy eyes.
Stormy eyes.
I have deep set eyes.
I wonder if I'll get a distinguishing mark as substantial as the one I had on my elf. A giant metal cage wrapped around one of my legs.
Yep. No, that's your drawback. That's
I know
not.
it's a drawback, but it is a distinguishing
very
mark, I would say.
Oh, it looks like they have 100 of these.
Yeah, 100 unique ones.
Oh,
Widow's Peak.
dude, the Glasgow smile. That's like the witch. That's like the Joker scars.
I just have bad posture.
I just have bad posture.
It said slouchy posture.
37. A widow's peak. That's fine. I can dig that.
You have a Widow's Peak
Oh.
as well?
Yeah, I got a widow's peak. Did you get a 37 too? We did.
Ow.
Yep.
We both got 37.
Peaky boys.
Sorry, you also have to take a Widow's Peak because you're a child.
Yeah, just genetics.
Yes.
You don't have it. You don't have it yet, but it's coming.
Yep. But yeah,
Dating is
I
a
mean,
really unique thing now.
again, there's all kinds of these like fun, like an ominous birthmark. Like that is, there are so many amazing things that you could make for your character with that description. A lightning-like scar, a missing finger, jaundice,
Gangly arms.
Yeah. perfect skin, perfect teeth, wooden dentures.
They change sunburn scars to sunburned skin.
Where is that? Which number?
95. Because Nab has sunburned scars.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it'd be hard to have sunburnt skin forever.
Yeah.
Unless you're just constantly out there.
Like, you'd have to do it on purpose, though, almost for sure.
Well, what if you just have like one of those, like you're just like don't have much melon?
I guess. All right, now we're getting to one of my favorite parts of character creation.
Whoa, fingers.
The dooming.
The doom.
So you roll for a season of birth, which, doesn't determine your birthday, but when you were born generally. I got an 89.
What I rolled last
I
time.
got winter. So I was born in winter.
Me too.
And the dooming is something that is not necessarily mechanically relevant. I guess I shouldn't say yet. It could have changed.
No, it says it's purely for role playing.
Okay. Dooming is purely for role-playing tool and has no impact on game mechanics. Look at it for when your PC is in danger, precarious situation, or if you're the game master, you can collect your players' doomings and force them to live through them. And it's very fun and very hilarious.
It doesn't say that? It's fun and hilarious?
Yeah. So
have you used them against us?
I have tried to do things to you guys with your doomings, but some of you either don't remember or don't catch it.
I remember what mine is, but I don't remember when you would have used it because it's the sun can be a cruel friend.
Yeah, and yours I have not.
Okay, good, because I try to keep an eye. We don't talk about it, but
yeah. So the one that
maybe we should talk about.
We should do more dooming. So my winter dooming with an 8 is be wary of false friends, which, these are kind of like horoscopes where it's broad enough that you can kind of like fit a situation to it.
Mine's not that broad.
What is yours?
Beware the black stallion.
But I mean, like, even then, like, they could be like, like, oh, we're meeting with this famous nobleman who.
Yeah, that's the only other thing I could think of too, right?
Yeah.
Like his house sign is the stallion.
Yeah, or like, or you could even be more obvious. It's like you look to the hill and you see a black stallion standing upon it, and then the character be like, wait a second.
No, what would be worse is if you did that at session 1. And then you did it in session 2, and you did it in
always.
session 3, and it's just getting a little closer every time.
I love that.
And your character just is losing their mind more and more. Yeah. Like, do you guys see that? See what? Dude, it's gone. It was right there.
It's looking at my sheet for NAB now, and I'm like, where is my dooming? I remember rolling it and everything, but I don't have it recorded anywhere.
Is it in the middle box?
Oh, there it is. Light burns just as much as it heals.
Yeah.
I just was looking over it.
All right, and then alignments. So they use a dichotomy system for Zweihander, where alignments aren't, chaotic, neutral, or anything like that. It's more so two sides of the same coin that exemplify your character's personality. And so you have a chaos side and an order side. And notice that they are not necessarily good versus evil. More so like indulgent versus like controlled, I guess. So you've got like cowardice versus authority, cruelty versus candor, exclusion versus dignity, and so they're supposed to be related. So like if you are like heroism, a flip side is impatience. So if you are trying to be heroic and trying to save the day, you can sort of invariably slip into going too far with it. is the idea.
Similar to ambition and carelessness in that sense.
Yeah. So what's
Some of them take a little bit of thinking.
77?
You're gonna do a little bit of a thinking man's game on some of these guys.
Mystery and pessimism.
I got superstition and sophistication.
I got hatred and wisdom.
That one's pretty straightforward, at least. That's
Yeah.
very Jedi.
Yeah. Did I spell pessimism right?
Did you use an S?
Pessim.
That's pessim.
I had an E in there.
Oh my god, this is spooky. You see the art on the next page?
I have not yet.
It's spooky.
Oh yeah, he's looking in
Yeah,
the
it
mirror.
is.
Yeah, and that's supposed to be, like the order alignment is yourself in control. The chaos alignment is sort of the lack of control. And so corruption plays into that system where the GM is supposed to basically award corruption or penalize with corruption when a character is emphasizing their chaos alignment. And it mentions here that corruption is a game mechanic that's handled by the GM, found under the handling corruption in the Game Master Secrets book within the starter kit. So this again this is a lot of player facing stuff. The corruption and the alignments and that sort of thing is a lot of GM stuff as well. Drawback. So let's see. It looks like you don't have a choice anymore.
Yeah, you just take one.
Yeah,
And
so
some
that's
of these are real nasty.
Yeah, so that's why you automatically get 2 fate points. It's basically like you get 2 fate points, you're taking a drawback.
Oh wow.
15.
Okay. Again,
Did you get the veteran's leg?
I got prosthetic joint. My limbs just don't work. I didn't get prosthetic leg. Thank God. Prosthetic joint's not that bad.
Not bleeder.
Oh, that one's rough.
Yep.
Yep.
It's gotta carry extra bandages.
I got the Choleric Temperament, which is like
Oh, that one I saw.
Anger.
That one's scary.
anger and rage.
Yeah.
Whenever you deal damage and don't inflict an injury, you gain a corruption. So it's like, if I'm going to hurt someone, I want to really hurt them, or else it makes
Yeah,
me...
and that also is very interesting as well, because it's going to impact the kinds of weapons that you want to use.
Yeah.
Because it's going to make you want to use weapons more likely to cause injuries.
Yeah. Which really, like, just as a baseline, says a lot about who the character is. I was
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
sort of this sadistic individual.
Wonder which joint is prosthetic. What do you think? My like left pinky joint?
That'd be fun.
Dang, I can't imagine a prosthetic joint in the Dark Ages. That would hurt like hell all the time.
So let's look at some of these. Melancholic Temperament. Whenever you use laudanum on yourself, you must use 2 instead of 1. Missing eye. You flip to fail perception-based tests. Prosthetic foot, prosthetic joint, prosthetic leg, ruptured eardrum. You flip to fail hearing tests. Sour stomach. Split face. Weak lungs. You suffer more physical peril. In our Scarlet Sash Stories campaign, we have a dunderhead who suffers more mental peril. We have Cody's character has a veteran's leg, so a bum knee that reduces, or like you mechanically can't run.
I don't think I ever knew that until today.
In the interlude story, I can't remember whose character it was. I think it was again the beggar, this stone shaping like gnome beggar had the drawback ne'er-do-well, which mechanically forbade him from assisting in skill checks, like literally just cannot help anyone, which is very funny. But yeah, so these are again very, very cool thematic like bits to put this character together out of. And I think we're nearing the end. Yeah, you name your character, starting trappings. So what is my character's name?
I named my character Derek Langley.
So a pugilist Ciabra who is sadistic, likes to inflict injuries, albino, scholastic upbringing. What would be a good, like...
Because you get to have a name.
Yeah, I gotta
You
have
get
like a
to give
nickname.
yourself, like, a title.
Yeah, like a title.
Split lip.
I want it to be something like about hurting people. Like he fights with the intention of hurting.
Bone breaker.
Yeah, like bone breaker or
I still like split lip.
Split lip.
Bonesaw is ready.
Bonesaw's ready.
Man flayer.
Let's see.
Storm fist.
The hand of pain.
The hand.
That sounds like a lucha libre.
Bone bruiser.
Yeah, we'll go.
Snap.
I do like Bone Snap, actually. We'll go Bone Snap.
I go, hey, what's up, Bone? Or do you prefer to be called Snap?
And then we'll
He doesn't
record.
speak verbally, so he just flips me off.
Yeah, just gives you the still sign of true name, Billy Bob. And that is, after we record trappings, the characters are ready to play. Like, this is and so then you kind of formulate this like whole from each of the parts, right? Where I'm thinking of this Ciabra, who is a martial artist by trade, who has this personality that, like, if I'm gonna get in a fight, it's gonna be that like Machiavellian concept of like, if you're going to do harm, do the ultimate harm so that your opponent can't retaliate, kind of thing. And so this person is probably fairly cold in temperament, and that sort of thing. And then, of course, as you adventure and you gain more professions and traits and that sort of thing, your talents and all that, your character grows as well, as you are stacking these qualities on them. So we ended up with a human investigator who's hot, a Siabran pugilist who's probably an asshole. And then what did you get, Chris, as a final?
I am a gnome barber surgeon.
Oh, yeah! When you got the alchemy shit.
Do you have a
Yeah. Do I have a what?
a stool that you stand on when you're doing surgery?
I just like flat sit on somebody's chest.
Sitting on him like
Like-
Like, all right,
yeah.
lay on the floor. On the floor.
No, but that idea of a barber surgeon with that quality of like tradecraft and alchemy being improved, that could be a, like, just mechanically speaking, very strong character in terms of like doing utility things and that kind of stuff.
I also like that I got the bleeder drawback because I feel like that kind of can tie into that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The actual profession as well.
Yeah, like you had to learn how to treat wounds, or else you're like almost
also why I'm so fast.
Yeah. So yeah, these three characters would then be thrust into a story of some kind. One thing that I really enjoy about how the Zweihander system describes adventurers and adventure and how that kind of works is that basically your character and their profession is what they were before this inciting incident. So like there was at some point at the like beginning of the game, or even during like session 0, which is like the title of the tool, you and your players and your DM would describe what brought all these people together, and it's going to probably be some kind of pretty significant incident of some kind, which basically pulls the character out of their old life and forces them into this sort of adventure idea. And so like for Scarlet Sash stories, what I ended up going with is the characters were all arrested for a variety of either real or fabricated reasons and indentured into a like penal battalion. And then of course the greater event that surrounds that is this like cataclysmic sort of star falling that destroys an entire nation. And so Zweihander really focuses on that, like, yeah, you were a barber surgeon. You are now in the process of becoming something else, which I think is very cool, as opposed to a lot of other systems that are like, okay, you pick a thing and that's what you are until the end of the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, that has been basically our little demo here. I have this nice splash screen for the starter kit. It was successfully kickstarted and is now available almost for sure. I should have checked with Daniel, but pretty sure it is now available on the website Backer Kit, which is like basically where you can go for finished Kickstarters to order the products that were kickstarted outside of the fundraising campaign. And so you can see here that this Zweihander starter kit includes obviously the Session 0 rule set that we use today, plus a ton of other stuff for running the game. You got the player's rulebook, the DM's rulebook, a full adventure called Secrets of Swansea, which you can watch here on this channel. There are VODs of the actual writer for Secrets of Swansea running it on the channel. which is very cool. You should check out those VODs for sure. You get dice, you get a Game Master screen, you get the map of Swansea for the adventure, character sheets, tokens for fortune, misfortune, spell cards, injury cards, all kinds of excellent physical game playing assets.
Not very good for Texas Hold'em though.
Yeah, not as good. And of course, as we sort of talked about when we were going through this process, the changes that have been made for the starter set and for like the rules and streamlining and the new options, there is not a better time to get into Zweihander than right now. There's so many cool things on the horizon. There's Blackbirds, the other Kickstarter that finished up a few months ago, that is on the horizon. Another game setting and system powered by Zweihander RPG. And of course, Flames of Freedom came out before that. Another Zweihander RPG system set during the Revolutionary War in the 13 colonies. It's so fucking rad. Like, so yeah. Thank you for watching. I hope you are inspired to at least try out this free starter or free rule set called Session 0, available on DriveThruRPG. Check it out. Show it to your friends. Show it to your dungeon master. Obviously, if you're interested, go for the starter kit whole product. Get it on BackerKit. Check out the other publications. And yeah, hope you like it. We've really enjoy it. We've, again, 100+ hours of Zweihander and have really only scratched the surface of what you can do with the system and the setting and professions and that sort of thing. I'm Hunter. I was joined today by Cody and Chris, wonderful members of the Fiends and Friends gaming content collective. We run Scarlet Sash Story every Friday night here on this channel. We got a bunch of other shows on our other channel, Fiends and Friends, our Twitch. You should check us out there. We've got a Discord that you can join. We've got a command here. If you do !Fiends, you can get all of our information from there. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned a little bit about Zweihander, and definitely check out their Discord and get to playing. Make some characters, lose some limbs, kill some demons, and have a great time. And we'll see you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.